Stop me if you've heard this one before, but Penn State got a commitment today. Ryan Snyder, Penn State a recruiting insider for BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Nittany Lions pick up a very, very important player, but not for the class of 2025. So tell us what happened this morning, Tuesday, around 11 a.m., I believe.
Man, we're trying to track all these 2025 guys. Now we got 2026 commitments. It is happening fast. But if you're going to get a 2026 commitment in June, it's probably going to be a quarterback because the dominoes fall fast. And that's really, we've seen that over the last week or so. And now Penn State gets one of their top 3 or so quarterback targets in Troy Huhn out of California. Another California commitment, man. That's it's funny just because we were just talking about Darius Dixon a few weeks ago, and
it's almost like they're trying to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even proven wrong. It's just history, right? I mean, that's all we're looking back on. Of course, Koa Farmer was 2014, so that was like a decade ago. But yeah, man, look, you got the rankings up there. Number 60 for On3, 81 in the industry rankings. I mean, he is a consensus 4-star prospect at every 4 of the major recruiting services. And as I kind of hinted at there. Really, I mean, Penn State offered, I think, around 10, 11 quarterbacks in this class so far. But it really started to become clear, I would say, around March that they were focused on 3 primarily. Diabell, of course, we talked about a good bit out of Florida. He ends up committing to Texas. I think it was just over a week ago. I think it was around June 17th. And then the other one was Brady Hart. He ends up committing to Michigan on June 18th. So just a day later. And what was interesting about Brady Hart's situation is that Troy had planned an East Coast trip to Michigan and Penn State for last week, June. I think he was supposed to be at Michigan on the 17th, Penn State then on the 19th. Well, he gets up to Michigan, and Brady Hart hadn't announced publicly yet, but Michigan obviously knew on June 17th. And Troy admitted, like, hey, that kind of ended the visit right there. He was a little bummed about that, but check the school off his box, I guess you would say. And, so he gets to Penn State then, or actually, correction, before he got to Penn State, he said Ohio State called him that evening. He takes a unofficial visit to Ohio State on his way out to Penn State, of course, does that on the 18th, then gets to Penn State on the 19th. Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Michigan all hosted Troy in late March, I want to say is when it was. And that's when the majority of, or handful of those schools offered. Penn State actually offered back in September. And I think that helped a good bit in this situation because he had that relationship with Danny O'Brien that had been going for quite some time now. But really, it kind of came down to Ohio State and Penn State, from what I understand. He had a lot of interest in Ohio State, but that relationship with O'Brien kind of played a big role in getting this commitment done. So, like I said, Texas was a major player too. But of course, when they got Troy, or they got Diabell, that obviously checked the Longhorns off the box. So it was kind of just a domino effect, which we do see at quarterback, and we do see usually sooner than most other positions. And that's why we're talking about a massive 2026 commitment today. A top 100 prospect. On3 has him as the 6th ranked quarterback in the country. And boy, Penn State is very happy to have him, because once they got past those 3, sure, there were guys that they liked, but they looked at those 3 as the safest bets, and they're really happy to get one of them in Troy Huhn.
6'4", 205, prototype quarterback. Another situation where you have a tall, strong player that can operate from the pocket. And as you can see here in the On3 industry ranking, not every 4-star is the same, and 92 overall. Of course, we'll see how that progresses during his junior and senior season. This is far from over. Recruiting is a process, not a these are just mile markers throughout it. But Penn State doing very well in the class of 2026 so far, starting with Messiah Mickens and Troy Huhn right now. Getting into some of the conversation about the West Coast and this particular, the question has come up a couple of times, the Big Ten expanding. And I just want to get your thoughts on this. We talked about this a little bit. Does that bring these players more into focus for teams like Penn State? What's your thought from a recruiting perspective?
So Sean interviewed Troy. He would have a better feel for specifically, if that was an impact. I haven't talked to him myself yet. I mean, to some degree, yeah, I guess it's nice. Penn State will be out there playing every once in a while. But if you look at the way he's visited, I mean, he visited all across the country. So that tells me, I don't know anything about his family personally, but that tells me that, like, his family has the means to travel, right? Because if you look at his unofficial visits, I mean, he was everywhere from Clemson to LSU to Florida, a bunch of trips to Texas. I mean, he was all over, of course, the Big Ten schools, as I mentioned earlier. So I think this was more just about finding the right fit, finding the person that you believe in that will get you there. And of course, Danny O'Brien ends up being that guy. I mean, the one thing I will add there is Drew Aller having an impact on this, because in some ways there are some similarities between Troy and Aller. I mean, we talked about Diabell a lot. Like Diabell is a more athletic, can do more with his feet kind of quarterback, where I don't know how much Troy can do that yet. We haven't really seen it though, I guess, because if you look at stats from your 1,600 yards passing, I mean, I think he had like 30 yards rushing, right? So he is certainly a more of a prototypical quarterback that you kind of see similar to Drew Aller. And hey, we got 2 more seasons here to go for him. So, or excuse me, 2 more seasons to go. So we'll get a better feel for numbers. I'm losing
for Troy Huhn, for Troy Huhn specifically, because if you say that for Penn State fans with Drew Aller, that it might blow some heads up. So that important distinction there. I guess the other thing I want to touch on here is Penn State had a bit of a dip there in terms of missing on Matt Zollers, missing on Diabell, but Danny O'Brien seems to be very important in this conversation. Going back, previous offensive coordinators, they have garnered the interest of top passers and been able to get guys interested in the program beyond just the guys who come and visit to see everything at Penn State. It seems like they're a serious contender. Fitz said this morning in his recruiting update, Penn State is a top-tier quarterback program right now. How much do you attribute that to Danny O'Brien and his ability to create these relationships with these young passers?
Yeah, Danny's been massive for a while now. I mean, even before he got the quarterback title, under Yurchich, he was their lead recruiter for the vast majority of prospects. I mean, he had a big hand in, getting a few of those guys on board. So, Danny's always been great at that stuff. I think for Penn State to become that next tier of a quarterback program, though, it's all about results, right? And of course, Kotelnicki's coming in this year. It'll be really fun to kind of see how he's able to transition that offense and do different things moving forward. But I mean, look, they've consistently got good talent, right? I mean, Grunkmeyer is a great player. Smolik was underrated I still kind of felt like he was underrated a bit by a few people, and maybe that's from Iowa, whatever it may be, but obviously he's going to be out now for a little while. But there was a lot of excitement about Smolik too within Lash, and of course you got Bo and Drew and others, and we'll see what Beckham Kritza can bring here this season at Miami Central. So but make no mistake, I mean, this is a guy that has been identified very early on as one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and that is a little bit different from Grunkmeyer and a few other guys who kind of earned their way up through the ranks. So I think it really just even Aller. So I really think it comes back to like his arm strength, arm talent is the big thing. That's the thing that's grabbing Charles Powers' attention when it comes to rankings and things like that. Let's see here now over the next 2 years how that's able to progress. But there's no doubt that from an arm strength perspective, he's up there.
We're going to get into a little bit of an evaluation here off of his highlight film, but as you mentioned, there's so much stuff going on. My list keeps growing instead of shrinking on film rooms that I need to do for class of 25 players, and now we have a quarterback for 26. But here's a quick film evaluation. Haven't been able to get into his mind and how he plays the position from an understanding of diagnostics perspective, but from a baseline of what he is as a football player, we'll throw these highlights up here. You mentioned the arm strength. I think it goes beyond the arm strength to he's got a very quick delivery, compact, efficient. When you've got arm strength and that, we talk about with Beckham Kritza as he has this unbelievable arm talent. It's not just the strength of his arm, it's the delivery, it's how quick it all happens. Now, you can make that more efficient, and there's obviously more room to grow for a guy like Troy Huhn with a big frame, and a guy who, in Beckham Kritza, has the similar idea of refining these things and making them even better. But you really like where Troy Huhn is starting with all of these things. He's a rotational thrower, so he's a modern passer where he is able to generate force and velocity in a small area with that hip rotation, as opposed to a big linear step. There's one thing I do notice a couple times when he tries to rifle the ball in, he does kind of overstride and things break down a little bit, but the way he throws the ball is very clean. It's very Grunkmeyer-like. It's very Aller-like when he's on. So then the question becomes, like, what is it like when he's under pressure? What does it look like when he has to hold on to the ball? You mentioned his mobility. I think one thing I am confident to say is, though, he's got athletic feet in the pocket. So Andy Kotelnicki talks about having the athleticism to reset your feet quickly on an RPO and to get consistent base to throw from. I think his RPO and his read option, if they ever get to that point with him, his footwork from that perspective is good. Like, he fits a mold of a Penn State quarterback of what they would want from that perspective. So he's not a pure pocket passer with cement feet, but then, as you mentioned, the athleticism, the running part, I think, is going to be something that we learn over time. But some encouraging things, obviously, here on a highlight film, you're going to see all of that. But I like the way he keeps a tight base. So his feet are underneath him. He's consistently in position to throw the football. Again, these are highlights. We're not seeing all of the bad stuff, but this is why he's a top 60 player, according to On3. It's why he is a consensus 4-star quarterback and somebody you take very seriously in this recruiting process. So those are some of the questions, I would say, as far as or some of the answers on film we can see just here from the highlight tape. I wonder what the upper end of his arm strength is as he develops. Where does he get more RPMs to fit the ball into tight windows? He's got such an easy throw. Comes out with natural velocity. What does it look like? As I mentioned, sometimes it gets a little wonky when he tries to fit the ball into tight windows. What does it look like when he's throwing with velocity into certain positions? And, there's other things on there, touch and throwing with speed and layering the football. I like a lot of those things from Troy Huhn. So, not telling you anything you don't know. Here's a top 6 player at his position in the country, Ryan Snyder. Anything you want to add there?
Just a big commitment. I think we already kind of hit on it, but so listen, obviously Dia Bell was the guy we talked about for so long, right? I mean,
Yep.
it was so important, that they were able to lock down one of these 3 guys because we mentioned Dia just because of his consistent visiting. I think that was the big thing. But Troy and Brady Hart were both consistently like, look, sources made it very clear they had to get one of those 3 to feel very good about it because, like I said, a lot of the other guys, they have more question marks. So I think that's really important for Penn State. And now look, you got 2 top 100 players in the class to start out. You got Kevin Brown, who's going to be one of the best offensive line prospects, I think, to come out of the region in quite some time over in Harrisburg. The area, of course, Tyler Merrill. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about for what this class could become. But it's also June 25th, 2024. And we have 16 months ago. Who knows how long it is? But 17, 18, I don't know what it is. But yeah, it's a long way to go, of course. But I mean, California commitment too, that one certainly grabs my attention. And the dominoes that fell to led to this. Important for Penn State, but I'm sure they'll have to fight to keep him to some degree. Now, with that said, I mean, my limited interactions with Troy, I do not get the sense that he's going to be a guy that is trying to shop himself around a whole lot over the next couple of months. But hey, you never know, man. In the NIL world, somebody comes out and just goes incredibly aggressive. You never know, but it's a big one for Penn State, and Nittany Lion fans should be very excited today.
A special offer here for everyone watching on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. 2 months for $1 with code PSU1. Appreciate you joining us here. Give us a try on the site. It's just $1 for 2 months, which takes you through recruiting, getting all the inside info so you're ahead of the curve when it comes to Penn State recruiting information. And of course, over on the site for when we hit to training camp, our updates and observations during camp and then into the regular season. All that just for $1. Subscribe now. Get that great stuff. And Ryan, as we get out of here, one last question. Given the focus back to 25, am I going to get to sleep at any point this week? Is there more coming?
I don't want to hear it, buddy. You complaining to me right now? Come on, man. But Sean's at the beach. I feel like I got a bunch of that stuff on my plate too. But hey, this is why, honestly, I mean, I'm not, I should probably be more of a promoter than I am, but like, this is why you subscribe to sites like this though, because these fast moving points of the year where this kid commits to this school impacts how another kid ends up at Penn State or vice versa. And I mean, just even within Penn State's own class, getting, another 1 or 2 commitments here and how it impacts other guys. I mean, that's what we're really trying to focus on. But, we knew this was going to be a massive week. I didn't expect a 2026 top 100 quarterback to join this week. But actually, I mean, at the same time, when I was looking at the dominoes falling last week, I was like, oh man, this is going to get interesting here. So lots more to come, man. We've got Jeff Exner on Friday. We got Brandon Finney supposed to be here soon, announcing kind of soon. And, so many other guys. I could go all day.
And we'll continue the conversation at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Stay tuned for more here on the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, all that great stuff. We will be back in the next one.